Three, two, one. Welcome to the Lightforge. This is Adwicta.
This is Merps. Hope you guys had a great week. I'm sure a lot of you guys have been playing Hearthstone a ton since Thursday because we had a huge patch, big announcements, and we're here to break everything down for you guys.
So first, the new mode that's come out is called Hearthstone Duels, and it is the format's basically you start out with 16 cards. That's a constructed deck that you build with whatever collection that you have. They limit it to a few of the expansions, so it's not like totally wild. But it'll rotate every month. Then you get to pick a hero, or I guess you pick the
Okay,
hero
you're doing a
first.
terrible job explaining this.
So
It's PvP dungeon runs.
yeah, okay, that doesn't really tell
Started
people
off there.
anything.
No. It helps them a lot more than the description that you were initially giving and taking a long time to get to there.
I'm just building up to what all the rules are in this game mode.
You're just going to confuse people.
I get really
PvP
confused.
Dungeon
PvP Dungeon Runs doesn't tell you what. You don't get to build your deck in Dungeon Runs. Like, it's completely misleading to call PvP Dungeon Runs.
We can
I know
never
people, like...
base things off of, it's like, oh, well, it's weird for me, okay? No.
Yeah, but PvP Dungeon Runs is hugely misleading. I'm not saying people don't get it. They think they get it, but they're wrong. Right? I'd rather people, not be misled than people, think that they understand. Like, it's even worse to think you understand something and then not actually understand it than just knowing you don't understand it, right? I think we can all agree on that. Okay, so you pick a class, and each of the classes is a different hero power. Eventually, you'll be able to pick different hero powers for each class, but right now there's just one hero power for each class. And the hero power is like this OP version of a regular hero power. For example, the mage, you ping something, and if it dies, it gives you a mana worm, rather than the normal mage hero power, which is just you ping someone. Okay, so once you pick the hero, then you get to pick 16 cards from whatever sets they allow you to pick from, and build a deck. So it's constructed. So your first game is entirely constructed. Oh, you also pick a treasure in the beginning, I think? You pick a treasure in the beginning, right?
You are not great at explaining this.
What? No, I just don't know if you pick a treasure in the beginning or not.
You pick a treasure, yes.
Okay, you pick a treasure in the beginning. Treasures are the same things as in dungeon runs. So they're super overpowered cards. And or just like abilities that trigger at the start of the game. Okay, so once you have all this, you go face someone. And then win or lose, you get to pick one of those dungeon run 3-card packs. And you get 3 choices from it, and you pick one of them. That gets added to your deck. So now you got 19, maybe 20 cards in your deck. You also start gaining more and more health. You start off with 20 health, I think, and then you gain more as things go on. Eventually, you lose 3 times and your run ends. Or you win 12 times and your run also ends, and you get your 12 win stuff. So that's how the game mode is. Now, you might be wondering, wait, if you get 3 or 4 more cards every single time, and you start out on your first game at 16, wouldn't you very quickly get this ridiculously large deck? And the answer is yes. If you are going to do well in this game mode, you are playing with ridiculously large decks. Your second question may be, is everything super overpowered because it's dungeon runs, right? And the answer is yes. Huge swings, superpower stuff. It's a lot of answer, threat and response kind of play, and also a lot of synergies because you get to build your starting cards from a constructed base. So you just pick something that I don't know if you can net deck now, but I know we tried to net deck on Friday and we couldn't find a net deck. So
yeah, it's not like Hearthstone, HS Replay have categories for it yet, and to our knowledge, there has not been a specific subreddit made for it. Once that happens, you're going to see net decks and everything. But as of right now, the meta is still very young.
Yeah.
The game mode only dropped on Thursday. Also, as of yesterday, and by yesterday I mean Saturday, because right now we're recording this Sunday night, that was when the most OP treasure was just removed. So we're talking about a brand new meta from yesterday, because that treasure cast a wide shadow over everything. So the meta is now...
The treasure is robes, if you're wondering.
Yes.
Okay, so we have this new game mode. That's basically what it does. The meta is very young. It's moving. There are no net decks yet, or if there are net decks, like very few people are using the net decks. People are just kind of building synergistic decks based on what Blizzard is kind of putting a thumb on the scale for, right? Like we saw like cards that were focused on discard synergies. We were like sort of focused on, I don't know, like spells and spell damage. Like people have their natural focuses, and it'll get really diverse once they add more stuff into the game, which they haven't yet. There's just a lot of like, you know, locked spots that you can't unlock yet. So yeah, so that's the new game mode. I know some people were expecting this, something similar to this. I was expecting something more like Cube, but I don't know. What do you think of this game mode? I played one co-op game with you, and if you guys are interested in checking out the game mode and you haven't, or you just want to see us play it, we cooped once on Friday night, and that is on YouTube right now on our YouTube channel. And I haven't looked at the game mode since then. But you've played a few more games like before that too, because you didn't go into that like totally like without an idea of what you were doing.
It's a fun mode. So I played a total of maybe like 6 runs up to this point. I haven't played since robes have been removed. And once again, I know people are saying in chat, it's like, oh, it hasn't been removed. If anyone wants to offer evidence towards that, because I know they said they were going to remove it on Friday, and then late yesterday they confirmed it has been removed. So, to my knowledge, according to the official Blizzard communication, yes, they did not remove it initially when they said they were going to on Friday, but as of late yesterday, it has been removed. So you can let me know if I'm wrong there. Um, but it's a fun mode just because number one, it's something different, and number two, people just like dungeon runs. People like having that cool, anything can happen, and like I want to just play with overpowered stuff. And it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be in terms of the swings. Robes of Gaudiness were by far the worst, but then after you remove that, there was a lot of uh pure Hearthstone. There was a lot of stuff that you just had to think about. My best run, so by myself, I have not gotten 12 yet. I got 12 in a co-op with Sun Glitters, Orange, and Slissa. By myself, my best run has been an 11-win run with Professor Slate, who is the hunter, and I just decided to go aggro. And it's funny because you think of duels and you see all these crazy combos, these crazy attrition control decks. I just went face. I stuffed my deck with things that went face. I tried to create the most tight synergistic aggro deck. And yes, I lost to some ridiculous combos 3 times, but more often than not, I was able to use just Hearthstone skills to bring my deck to 11. And I really like that. And then when I played with the other classes as well, there was just some experimentation going on, but I do see the potential in it because when I first went in, I was like, I don't know. This seems really wacky and crazy. And it's not as wacky and crazy as people might think it is. It's, it's obviously going to be crazier than some stuff you see in Arena. But I was surprised, pleasantly so, by the amount of skill that is required in it.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing right now is that this game mode, like Battlegrounds, has a rating system. So you will be matched up with people who are roughly your own skill. And being the first few days of this, that's not what's happening right now. Everyone's kind of matched with everyone else. So right now, this game, if you're a good player or if you're a terrible player, I guess, it's not how the game will look a month from now, even if nothing happens and they don't add anything and the community doesn't become any better at like actually playing the game, because it's not separating you yet. So getting to 11 wins, 12 wins is pretty easy. It's like, imagine if it's like the day one of an event, right? Where they just gave all the arena players free tickets. It's like that because there's really no matchmaking happening right now. But this game mode eventually is going to have it has matchmaking, but like the matchmaking will actually become meaningful. And once that happens, like it's going to be a totally different ball game because it starts off being 100% constructed, And at 100% constructed levels, you have like a 55 to 45% win rate, even if you're like really, really good, and someone else roughly your rating is like not actually that good. And that'll determine your first few games before the limited part kicks in. And then the
So this
limited
has
part.
not been confirmed in any way.
What has not
By
been
the way,
confirmed?
that they're actually going to use ratings to pit you against other players.
Okay, well, there is a ratings, so it
There
would be
is a
really,
rating.
really, really, really weird if they took the Battlegrounds rating system, which is what they said. They said that the rating system is based
Mhm.
on Battlegrounds, and then did not actually matchmake you with it. Because
Sure,
then
I
the
just want to make
matings
sure
would be
yeah. I just don't want people to have the idea like, oh, okay, so this is official. It's like
right, but
we
they've
don't know
confirmed
yet.
that the
We don't know.
rating system is the same as the Battleground system. So I think you're splitting hairs when you say that that doesn't also confirm that there's matchmaking. I think that confirms that there's matchmaking. But
But
I
have they
agree,
said it's
it's like
exactly like Battlegrounds? Like
they
in
confirmed
terms
it
of
that it's the same scale as
it's
Battlegrounds.
a 1-to-1 to Battlegrounds
It's
because it
Battlegrounds ratings, yeah.
because the point scaling doesn't like it doesn't work like that.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
Uh,
like they're trying to make it like Battlegrounds is what like they think it's Battlegrounds. Obviously, this is a one-on-one match, and then you have to win to 11-3, right? So the exact scaling is going to be very different than Battlegrounds. But in terms of like the run, right? They're trying to match. They're saying that the end judgment is going to be like Battleground. So they haven't technically confirmed that matchmaking is a part of it. But like, why else would you have a rating that works that way, right? Like, if they're not going to match you, like if you're at 3-3 and they're not going to match you with a 3-3 person of roughly your rating, then your rating is going to infinitely like increase.
yeah. Well, infinitely increasing ranks is something that they do in BGs anyway. So I feel as though it could just be one of those things where they sort of just like base it on what your average is, and then they like give you plus or minus. I agree with you that I think they're gonna do some sort of MMR matchmaking, but I don't know. It could be something else as well. I really don't.
Okay. Because if like imagine if there is no MMR system, right? If there's no MMR matchmaking, but they have an MMR system, that's going to heavily penalize people who are good. Like in terms of the actual MMR. Because if you lose a game in a very randomness kind of game against someone with a low MMR because there's no matchmaking and you're like that's how MMR systems work, right? That's why there's no such thing as an MMR system without matchmaking. Because it doesn't function. The whole basis of your internal MMR requires that you're constantly matched with people who are roughly the same skill. Like one of the problems with why MMR doesn't function in the current battleground system at the high end is because they're having trouble matching you against people actually of your MMR, right? Like if you're too high, like the whole system breaks apart. So I don't think that they're going to try to do that. And everything that they've said so far supports the idea that there's pretty regular MMR matchmaking as you would expect. But like if you want to split hairs, they haven't technically confirmed that exact point. Okay. So the rating system is also split between this thing called heroic mode, which isn't available yet, and what we're currently playing, which is the normal mode. And heroic mode basically is like you get to wager something, right? It's arena like you get to pay 100 gold, and then depending on your performance, you get something back. You're like putting some skin in the game. And so they're separating that. So this is the casual mode, and there's going to be the same exact thing, but it's going to have more of like oh, everyone doing this will have to be playing serious.
Yeah. So and that will be coming out during season 1. Right now this is early access. This isn't even beta. This is early access. So if you want to play Duels right now, unfortunately you have to pony up some cash. You have to buy the pre-purchase bundle, one of them. I don't think you have to buy the biggest one. You can buy like the smaller one, I believe, but use your reading comprehension skills when you do buy it. And when season 1 of Duels begins, that's when we'll get the heroic offerings.
Yeah.
Also, you can use your arena tickets. So if you are, just a BG player and you have some arena tickets, which is not surprising because you might have bought a tavern pass or two,
Mm-hmm.
and you're still interested in checking out Duels, well, you're in luck because those arena tickets are going to be converted into some sort of like dual purpose ticket for both arenas and Duels. So you can try it out when season one comes out.
Yeah. So okay. So back to the whole duels mechanics. I think that the whole duels mechanic has been set up in a way that is just very, very much not for limited players. It is like a gateway drug for constructed players to get more limited experience and limited things into a constructed game mode. Like, rather than thinking of it as like, arena is a pure limited format, this is like a little less arena. This is nowhere near arena. This is nowhere near battlegrounds. This is nowhere near a pure limited format. Like, this isn't even anywhere near like something like box, right? Because you're literally starting out by making 16 choices out of like, I don't know, 1,000 cards, or I don't know how big the card pool is for all of their expansions, maybe 600 or something. And you're making 16 choices. That is more choices, once you consider the pool that's available, than all the choices you're going to make for the rest of the run, even if you get to 12 wins. So the vast majority of your build, of what you want to do, of your game plan, is set when you enter the game. This is like 75% constructed, 25% limited, right? In the same way that adding Discover cards into a constructed game mode doesn't make it a limited game mode, this is, obviously more so to the limited side than a constructive format that has a bunch of Discover cards, but it's not that far there. So I think if you are a listener to this, and you're probably like a fan of Arena or Battlegrounds or other limited formats in other games, you have to look at it yourself from the other side, right? You have to start with, do I enjoy constructed, like ranked or wild? And if the answer is yes, I enjoy both constructed and limited formats, then you're probably going to like Duels, because it combines both of them. Blizzard's obviously going to add like a whole lot of support to it, and it really, like, there's a lot of complexity to it. Like, a lot of complexity to this game. After playing one run, it becomes really obvious that it's not like, there's a lot of big picture strategy and reads and knowing the meta that comes into play, in addition to deck building. And the fact that you're changing your deck every single game means that your skill of being able to adjust to a deck that you have never played before is huge, right? Because a 23 card deck versus a 26 card deck where you have added 3 cards plays potentially significantly differently. Like, once you add a treasure in, that plays potentially differently. When you draw things, they change your gameplay just on your side so much. Not to mention that you need to know the meta and what your opponents can do. So there's a lot of things to do there, but it's a lot of constructed skills. If you're someone that's like, I don't really enjoy constructed or ranked, I play arena, I play, and or battlegrounds, and I like limited formats that put everyone in the same starting place and then kind of makes you think on your feet for the entirety of the game from the beginning, right? Like, everything is at least somewhat random. I don't think you're gonna find a lot to enjoy about Duels past the initial kind of novelty and discovery part. Because in the very beginning, right now, this is the best time to play Duels, and it will remain the best time to play Duels for like another month, 2 months, because they're going to continuously add stuff. The new expansion is going to come out. They're going to unlock more hero powers, and there's going to be very little net decking because it hasn't formed yet. Like, the meta hasn't formed. But going forward, they're going to update this thing once a month. The pros are going to come out with their set deck lists. You're going to use them because they are way better than stuff you can come up with if you're playing the game seriously. And so the deck building part of your first 16 choices out of 600 becomes very little, right? You'll have like 2 or 3 ways at most to play each particular hero. And you're essentially selecting a build and selecting all those cards, and you have to make sure you have enough dust and whatever to actually build those cards. And that's going to change every single month because they're going to use different expansions. And once you start with that, then you're playing the game, right? So it becomes very constructed at that point. So I think that this game mode was pitched as like a game mode as expansive as Arena. And we kind of all interpreted it as, oh, this is going to be like something similar to Arena with different rule sets and getting more support. And what it turned out was something that was an alternative to constructed. but marketed more like a new game mode. So as far as like on the scale of, or also it didn't get a particularly good reception from at least Reddit, even on the regular Hearthstone Reddit, and certainly not on the Arena or the Battlegrounds subreddits. I feel like this is like as much of a non-arena killer as you could possibly have gotten from this game mode.
BGs is a truer arena killer.
Way bigger of an arena killer.
BGs is a pure limited format.
It's a totally limited format.
It's a completely limited format.
Mm-hmm.
You bring, well, you know, there's the hero choices, right?
Yeah,
like
but in arena you have hero choices too.
Yeah.
Like the thing with BGs is that it's barely Hearthstone. It is a pure arena format. It's a pure limited format. It's actually more of a limited format than arena is, honestly.
So let me kind of add on to what Adukta is saying, because I also see some people in the chat, but this is just a common kind of thing I've been seeing as well. They're like, wait, like it's not constructed, especially because later on, like your deck is so different from when you started. I'm going to start by saying yes, but I'm going to explain to you why it is so much so constructed. Number one, by starting off with 16 cards, you are omega constructed. If you understand what I mean. In constructed, the fact that you have 30 cards, yes, it opens up combo possibilities, but it dilutes your draws. It makes your deck less tight. Yes, it makes your deck less tight.
Oh, I don't think we said this before, but in the deck building, it's singleton. You can only put one copy of each card in.
Right. So, think of it this way as well. The comments that I see are just like, wait, but later on, it's crazy. You don't always play those games. You always play your first game.
Yeah.
So your first game is the most constructed deck you will ever make. You can ever make, because it's a 16-card deck as opposed to a 30-card deck. Once you introduce some, quote, randomness, it's not really random, guys. If you know what the buckets are, it's not really random. Okay, so like for Mage, it's like, all right, this, like sometimes I'll get an extra lab partner instead of a fireball. Sometimes I get an extra fireball instead of a lab partner. Stuff like that. It's not actually random. You will never get like a Booty Bay bodyguard thrown in there randomly, right? They all sort of serve kind of a purpose.
The card pool that they offer you is very limited for each class, and they're then further broken down into these themes. And then within each theme, there's like a few cards that could be different depending on your luck.
Yes. So once again, you are playing Omega Constructed at the beginning. The second game, you're playing Light Omega Constructed, but really, it's
more constructed than actual constructed, even in your second.
Yeah, it's more constructed than actual constructed. You're gonna reach a point, like slowly the degradation happens, and then yes, later on, it's like because of all these treasures, because of all this stuff, yeah, like it is a far cry from what your beginning deck looks like. But you will always play those first 3 games. You will not always play that 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th game.
Yeah.
In which, by that time, you've made a lot of like wacky additions and everything. But this is why we say it is very, very much so constructed. And the fact that your very first game is 16 cards that you're putting in the deck, it is the tightest possible constructed deck. Like constructed players, basically card players in general, if you ask them, it's like, would you like to put less cards in your deck? They're like, oh yeah, of course. Like, yes, that just means I'm able to construct my win condition perfectly, get my curve perfectly. So that is what we mean when we're saying it is super constructed. Yeah. Don't look at the games that you may not play. Look at the game that you always play and look how constructed it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, I think a big point that you mentioned that I'm going to drill in deeper on is that the choices you're making, they're not like you're not getting offered an arena choice where you're getting offered 3 random cards out of a pool of, I don't know how much it is. Like, again, like 600, 700. I don't know. That's not what's happening. You're getting offered themes. So they're only using a very small percentage of the card pool that you can even be offered. And then those cards come already themed. And you already know which themes you like because you built your first deck. So the choices that you make in this game are very dumb. Like, they are the least. I mean, they could be impactful because you could do something really dumb, but it's very easy to make quote unquote the right choices. And there's not a lot of 55-45 kind of like choices the way there would be in an arena draft because they've already bundled it up for you. And when you were building your initial deck, you already know what kind of bundles they were going to throw at you. So it is a little bit random. You're not going to get the bundles that you want all the time, and you obviously don't know what cards are in the bundle. Like, if you get a good bundle, you're gonna have to kind of like take it. There's some skill involved in it, but as your deck goes further and further, it becomes even easier to pick these bundles. And yes, you don't know, like Merv said, right? You don't know if you are going to get. I'm gonna use like a totally random example of Houndmaster. You don't know if your deck is going to end up with 3 Houndmasters or 1. But you know you're going to have some Houndmasters being added to this deck if you want it. So you can build your initial constructed deck in a way that takes advantage of Houndmasters, right? Like, and that's kind of the whole like thrust of it, where there's no objectively correct and wrong answers, but then you build a deck and then you pick a treasure. And then there are objectively right and wrong answers, and they're really easy to figure out. And then you get another treasure, and then you kind of your world shifts a little because the treasures are so powerful. And then you get more. Like, when you add these major events in, it just dumbs down your deck building process. So the actual deck building after 2 months in this game is going to be nearly nothing in terms of skill. Now, you will still have to adjust to decks of weird sizes, which means weird draw odds, that uses weird numbers of these resources that you know you're going to get, right? Like, you're going to play a deck with 3 Houndmasters very differently than with 1 Houndmaster. And depending on, like, if your deck size is 23, that's going to be very different than a deck size at 34. It literally screws over all of your odds. And you have to recalculate stuff in your head. And it's like a lot of thinking and a lot of nuance. But it's constructed nuance. Like, this is the stuff constructed players obsess over and memorize. Well, guess what? You can't memorize that stuff anymore because everything keeps changing all the time. But you're also not actually given the flexibility to make any adjustments. You basically just have to get better at constructed math. So, in some ways, like, it's less of a deck building challenge as it is a recognize what deck you have to play a constructed game challenge. And in the same way, you also more or less know what your opponents are doing based on their hero power and like the first few cards that they play. So you have to make like a little bit of a guesswork. It's not like, oh, all rogues play like this, especially when they open up new hero powers and new like options. But you're going to have a pretty good idea of what kind of cards your opponent has. Whereas in Arena, you never have that great of an idea. Because it's
whenever there's a new game mode, or whenever there's something like this, and some people like it, some people don't. But it all just comes down to the question: do you like the skills that are being tested here?
Yes.
That's basically it. So some people are like, "Oh, I think this is just objectively a bad game mode," or like, "I think this is good." It's just about what you enjoy. It really is.
Like, if
I'm
you
having
want to
fun
get
with it right now.
yeah, like if you want to get tested on how well you adjust to a new deck, Arena's going to test that like 1 or 2 games out of your whole entire run, right? Constructed is going to test that like pretty much nothing because you just repeat the same deck you already know how to play. But this game mode is going to test it every single new game. Like, not run every single new game. It's going to test it because you're going to get a new deck every game. Just a tweak on your deck, but it's enough that it changes all your odds. So that's a huge part of the skill test of Duels. Huge. Much more so than deck building, much more so than you may think of like normal arena, like in-game kind of mechanical skills. It's, can you adjust to a new deck, a slightly different new deck, every single game? And that is a skill that, I mean, it could be fun if you're really into it. Like, it could be really fun, right? Like, some people like to test out a lot of new decks and stuff. This would be really fun to them. But the game you're playing is very constructed feeling and not very arena feeling.
Yes, especially because the most I would say the most constructed feel to it is after things have been out for a while, after meta has been established. You look at a shaman and you're like, I probably know what's in his deck because you know, like they they either have the optimal thing or they have something that is quote suboptimal, and you can probably beat that, right?
Yep.
So you worry about the most optimal thing that's been decided by the community. And yes, they could have innovated and found some way to beat the meta as well, but you're just like, well, I'm not going to care about stuff I literally don't know about. So that is really the constructed aspect of it. When you're going in and you see something, your immediate thought is, okay, I think I know what's going on.
Hmm.
Like just from turn one, turn two,
Like, you know
or
what
sometimes even
combos
just
they
seeing the hero
have.
portrait. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what their win conditions are. You know all this stuff.
Yep.
It's like it's crazy that they pitched this as like they compared this to Arena more than they compared it to anything else. When in reality, this is closer to Constructed or Wild than it is to Arena by like a long shot. Um, and I don't know if they know it or if they care. But just if you're looking to check out this game mode, and if you're like, you know, trying to figure out either why one you don't like it or two you really like it. If you really like this game mode and you haven't given Constructed a chance, like you may actually kind of enjoy Constructed too. But if you do like Arena and you do like Constructed, you like them both, then this is like there's a good shot you're gonna like this game mode. I
There's still a
disagree.
decent step from Duels to Constructed.
Yes, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the difference between certainty and any lack of certainty, right, already is a
Right,
pretty big
right.
jump. So, like, some people think this game mode is dead on arrival, basically. Like, it's not particularly great. And I predicted before this game mode came out that it was going to be kind of a dud because they had knocked Battlegrounds so far out of the park. I just can't believe that they're going to have another success with something out there. And I thought it was going to be a little out there if it's not like Cube or just something copying. And this is not copying anybody. They are going for it. I don't think
they copied themselves.
Yeah, they copied themselves
with the dungeon run.
So yeah. I don't think it's dead on arrival or anything like that, but I think it's appealing to a pretty narrow subset of the player base, and they may think that it's appealing to a very wide portion of the player base, but that's not going to be true 2 months from now. And maybe, like, I mean, they probably may not care too much about that if they could get 2 months of everybody playing the game mode and then like letting people drift back to like whether it's Battlegrounds or Constructed, right? They don't want to cannibalize their own game. They don't want to like get rid of their Constructed game. So I don't think that this is like a misstep by Blizzard or anything like that. In fact, I think the game mode is a very nice addition to Hearthstone. It is something that I will not be playing because I think this is not testing something that I like, not skill testing something that I care about, and it's also not like a natural game, right? It's not like Cube or Arena or like Sealed or any of these formats that it's very elegant and natural. This is just where has Blizzard put their thumbs on the scale in terms of their offering buckets, and then like memorize that. Second, figure out where the meta is, memorize that. Like it's a lot of it's constructed stuff, right? It's like a lot of.
It does sound a lot like Arena with the micro adjust and offering rates, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like those for Arena necessarily either. I want a pretty pure game, but there's a lot more, right? Like because they're a big part of how this game also changes. So we focus a lot on the beginning and how it's like very uber constructed, but by the middle of the game, what you're actually going to be focused on is that, yes, the constructed stuff you did in the beginning has kind of broken down a bit. You're kind of instead just going on a theme of like a few types of combos, right? But your specifics are all jumbled. But you now have all your treasures. So your new class-defining thing, rather than being constructed with an OP hero power, is now like supported by constructed with your hero power and supported by some like arena kind of skills. But really, it's about how your deck has been built with the treasures. They are so like powerful, right? You know what treasures are. They're like the equivalent of like 3 cards worth of ability stuck into 1 card. That's a lot of randomness depending on whether you draw it or not. So that's another strike against it in my book for the randomness. But very clearly, you have to have this kind of stuff, right? Because you're starting with constructed. So if you don't have this kind of stuff, everything's going to just kind of feel like worse and worse and worse, and that's not a fun feeling for most people. So they have these treasures that make these giant impacts, but they're necessarily game swinging. And many times there's no like counterplay unless you also get your treasure, and then it's just who had the treasure that screwed over the other person's treasure. or like a treasure can also screw over your opponent's entire game plan by itself. You know, like break all their combos or like heal yourself up for some ridiculous amount. It's even when the game gets out of constructed and you can't in any way, shape, or form claim that like, oh, this is very similar to constructed anymore. Like when you're like 6-2 or something, it's still not arena. It becomes more like brawl. So it kind of transitions from constructed to brawl without ever hitting the like normal limited like battlegrounds arena sealed cube kind of area. It's interesting in how it does that, and that makes it a very unique kind of game mode, right? Which is a good thing. But I don't think it's one that's going to have lasting mass appeal.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Adukta understands what the game mode is and why it doesn't appeal to him. If you're listening to this podcast, that means you like Hearthstone and you also are willing to dig into it a little bit more. You kind of care about how things work and how you should think about these things. You owe it to yourself to try this game mode out. You really do. If you are not at least trying this game mode out, you're doing yourself a disservice because you could potentially really like it.
Even if you're like not a constructed player at all, like wait for the like early versions of net decks or like ask a friend or something and just like get a deck that way and start off and just play a game. Like a run, 2 runs. They spent so much time on this, and it's very obvious that they spent a lot of time and effort on this. And at least for the first 2 months, I think it will have widespread appeal, no matter what kind of player you are.
I think so as well. So this is one of those things where if you don't want to pay the money to play it early, that's fine. In fact, there are some broken things in the game right now that they just fixed, and I'm sure they'll smooth out a lot of other edges as the game goes on as well. So once it is actually out, it'll be even better. It'll actually just be the best experience possible. So you can let people like me beta test it for you.
Well, they're gonna also add a whole bunch of powers and stuff that's new to when they release it. So it could very easily. In fact, I'm sure the balance will be screwed at the launch of the next expansion.
This is a game mode in which, when you look at it, you're thinking, how is it ever possible to balance it? And it's probably not. And by probably, I mean it is just not. It's like how it's quote possible for me to walk through a wall according to physics. It is actually possible, but no, it will literally never ever happen. Even though it is possible.
So this will, I think it's a fair statement that this will be the least balanced game mode among constructed arena and battlegrounds, which again is not a particularly good selling point for the hardcore players. It's just really hard. It's not like Blizzard's fault. They just gave themselves this like thing, and I think they know that they're not going to really be able to balance it, especially because they're rotating every month. Like they won't even give themselves enough time to balance it. So it's just like that, right? It's between constructed and brawl, not between constructed and arena. So I'm not going to spend the time like mastering this game mode. It also has like a lot of nuance on top of it that you can actually really dig deep into, and I don't think it's worth it for me. So for me personally, I'm still going to stick with arena and battlegrounds. We'll talk about battlegrounds later and how like. Well, we'll see what you guys think about it, because I thought it was interesting when I talked to Merps about battlegrounds since the patch.
So you are not playing duels, right?
I'm not going to touch duels. I'm not going to do the early like thing. I may play it like here or there, like for fun, but I'm not going to put any kind of like effort into it.
Gotcha. I will say right now, because of lack of arena news, really, like nothing has really changed. We no longer have dual classes, which was fun for a little bit, as long as you didn't take it seriously, like we did. But I think I'll be focusing on duels and BGs, probably split 50-50, or depending on how much time I have, because also, if you guys don't know, duels runs can take a long time, which is fine because you can always stop in the middle.
That's the other thing we need to talk about. So there's a lot of life, there's a lot of cards, like once you get past the first couple games, it's a longer game mode than Arena.
So the first game and the first two games can go by really fast because of how tight the decks are and how little life you have. You only start at 20 life. Constructed 16 card deck with 20 life, you're asking for it, which is kind of what they want, right? This isn't like something that it's not a misstep by them. They want that feeling of, oh, at the beginning, your resources are not that plentiful and you're kind of weak, and they want you to grow into this monstrosity through this drafting and accumulation of treasures. It's an adventure, right? They want your starting point to be vastly different from your end point, and they have accomplished that. But then, of course, the first game is not, no joke, it's going to be your hardest game in some ways, because you're just like, oh man,
If you're a
like
good player, it's your hardest game because it's the closest to constructed, and constructed is closest to 50-50ing everyone.
Yeah. And that specific matchup might not be like a 50, but it's you against like the field and everything, right? So it's not going to be too far off. And, if you have like a great edge, fine, it's like a 55-45. So that first game is going to be really, really, really tough.
Yeah.
But I will be focusing on duels and BGs, and especially I need to play duels because there are quite a few tournaments coming up. And the one that I'm looking forward to the most is actually going to be on November 1st, which is next Sunday. It is going to be a tournament hosted by Slissa, and I will be co-casting with her. We have a ton of very accomplished and famous Hearthstone players attending. The list is still a little bit up in the air, so I can't exactly tell you who is going to be coming on, but make sure you check that out. The starting time is also TBD, so this is why I'm not trying to leave it mysterious, but I will tweet it out. Also, make sure to follow Slissa on Twitter if you guys haven't already, because she will give you all the details. I'm looking forward to it because, like we said, this game mode is super duper brand new. The meta is literally less than a day old as of this recording because they removed the most OP treasure, which was dominating everything. So I'm expecting to see lots of new stuff. We are the people who have been invited are at the forefront of Hearthstone since the beginning, and I'm expecting them to just completely crush it and show me things I've never seen before. So that's why I'm really excited. And make sure you check that out. What else are you doing on Sunday?
Yeah, and
There you go.
if the tournament goes into our normal Lightforge or Coop times, where we'll do the Lightforge or the Coop on Friday instead of on Sunday. All right, so that's Duels. Check it out. If you don't want to pay for it, wait and then check it out when it comes out. But they definitely spend a lot of effort on it, and it'll be fun for at least a bit for everyone, and then possibly for a long time for if you like the game mode. Along with this came another announcement of another new game mode that's going to come out in like this next expansion cycle. So like in the next, I guess 4.5 months before
It's
April.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but that could be the one that's the arena
single
killer.
Player, right?
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't release any information.
So once again, there's no information, but they showed it on the infograph thing, and people had to ask Blizzard because they were like, "Whoa, wait, is this real?"
Because they added it. That wasn't there before.
It wasn't there before. They're like, "Wait, is there actually another new game mode, or did the infograph creator just make a mistake?" And Blizzard actually confirmed, yes, we are releasing a new game mode once again soon, TM.
Yeah.
But actually pretty soon. So it just begs the question, why now? Like, you could even wait a year and a half to
at least
do
more than
new.
like 3 months.
Right. Like, you just released Duels. There's tons and tons of these tournaments that are going on. You know, being like a parent, you want to make sure your kids are at least somewhat used to the toys that they're currently playing with before you buy them a brand new toy. But I'm happy about this. This is also why I'm thinking it has to be single player, because then you're pulling your your players in all sorts of different directions for PvP, and you don't really want to dilute. You especially don't want to dilute the duels audience, right? Like pull their attention away from something.
So here's what I think. I think that the duels audience, by that point, they know that it will be kind of on the casual side, and that they're going to create a hardcore mode. Either a hardcore mode in single player or a hardcore mode that is like, in the vein of arena or battlegrounds. But obviously, I'm not expecting anything complicated, right? They have to be reusing normal Hearthstone mechanics here. They're not going to make another battlegrounds in this short time period. But I feel like it's going to be one that is going to be deep, but with little effort on their part. Like basically the opposite of duels, which is a lot of effort on their part.
It's a ton of effort. Yeah. And from what they've promised to do with duels, which is constantly updated. All right, so duels right now, it's Wizard Duels, and it's Wizard Duels because of the fact that it is Skullman's Academy, so wizards and theme like that. Whenever we move to a new expansion, it's going to be a different theme. It's not wizards anymore. It's going to be the theme of the next expansion, which we'll also talk about a little bit. But that means more work for them.
Yeah.
So no more, Professor Slate and his voice lines about like the headmaster forcing him to do this and how they're tenured and all of this stuff. No, they need different heroes. They need different voice lines. So they are hard committing to this. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to add a bunch of cards. No. New heroes, which requires new treasures and new balance. Insane amount of work.
Yeah, like Battlegrounds was like a lot of work to begin with, but then it's been pretty easy after that, right? Like they add a few minions here or there, they add a hero, like it's not the hardest thing. All the emotes, they don't have to have new voice lines, right? All the emotes are happy cows and stuff. But this is upkeep. This is like when they launched Brawl, like pretty early on, and everyone was like, wait, you just have to make a whole new thing every week? They're gonna just keep doing that? Okay, I guess. All right. So let's move on to the new expansion. There is a new expansion announced. The announcement was early because the launch date is going to be early. It's going to come out before Thanksgiving. It's going to come out before the week of Thanksgiving on, I want to say the 17th of November. Normally, this expansion comes out the first week of December. So if you guys know what's happening in the market right now, everybody's pushing the holiday season up because they expect everyone to run out of money by the end of the year. It is depressing, but as the world we live in, and all the marketing people are just pushing everything up. Any of the stuff that you thought would come out in December for the Christmas season are pretty much all going to come out before Thanksgiving for the earlier seasons. This is like physical products, online products, everything, because people are just going to run out of money. Is the fear. If you're in the US, you know that politics is kind of locked up. No one's getting anything done. This election may not actually end when the election ends. If like it takes them a long time to count ballots, or like if the losing party doesn't accept the laws, or if there's like some Supreme Court decision, like a lot of uncertainty is happening. So what businesses are doing, all businesses that have to make sales to regular people, like retail businesses, they are all moving all their sales up. They are moving their product launches up. Whatever possible, things are getting moved up. So Hearthstone's joined the group, and it's also no longer tied to the BlizzCon timeline because that's been pushed to, I don't know, January or February or something. So anyway, we're getting a new expansion sooner is kind of the upside, which is pretty exciting. And the new expansion is Darkmoon Faire, which is like a mix of like Karazhan and like the old gods, from what I can tell. Like it's a party, but like the old gods are like coming back at the same time. Do
It's
you know more
madness
about
at the
this?
Darkmoon Faire. Well, the Darkmoon Faire is something that comes from WoW, but I'm not a nerd, so I don't know anything about that. But no, this is what Blizzard always does with Hearthstone. They take something that is established in the Warcraft universe, and they put a fun spin on it. Like they put a fun sort of sometimes satirical, some but very playful spin on it in order to have a theme for an expansion. And once again, if you guys are interested in the cards that have been revealed so far, you can check them out on the official Hearthstone website or the Hearthstone Reddit. We won't talk about all of them,
Yeah,
but
we just want to talk
yeah,
about like the new mechanic at least, right?
yeah,
So they
yeah.
released a new mechanic. It's not the world's most ridiculous mechanic or anything. It's called Corrupt, and it'll say like the card will say, here's an example: Day at the Fair, Paladin, 3 mana, common. Summon 3 Silverhand Recruits. Those are the 1/1 guys your hero power summons. And Corrupt, summon 5. That means if you corrupt the card becomes another card that says 3 mana, summon 5 Silverhand Recruits. So you would get 5 instead of 3 when you cast the card. In order to corrupt a card, any card, you have to play a card that is of a higher mana cost while the original card is in your hand. So if I have Day at the Fair in my hand, for example, and then I play like a 5 mana card or a 4 mana card or a 10 mana card, the Day at the Fair in my card would change into the corrupted version. It's like
Yep.
kind of like mechanically, it works kind of like spellstones. That's the closest that I can come with. Like a one-step spellstone.
Yeah, well, we've seen this mechanic kind of before, in which they've had cards and other expansions that decrease in mana cost, for example, every turn when they're in your hand. We've seen Blizzard do this, use the resource of, or just recognizing that this is a resource, you holding cards and not playing them.
Yeah.
That is you paying a cost for something. So when they give you a punishment slash reward, you can look at it as a punishment or a reward. It's all the same. It actually makes this real because it's always been there, but the punishment slash reward has not been as tangible as the actual corrupt keyword. So it's them just using something that is naturally in any card game that we know of, and memorializing it into a keyword and increasing the punishment slash reward for holding it or playing it. So that's pretty cool. Once again, it's something we've seen before. It is a foundational kind of it's a bedrock of your Hearthstone skill as well to know when to hold and when to play. This just kind of lays it out in a more concrete way.
Yeah, and all they can do a lot of interesting things with this too, especially when they lay the mechanic out as you having to play a card that is of a higher mana cost. So the common neutral card that they revealed that kind of exemplifies this is Fleet Hoof Pearl Tusk. It's a 5 mana 4/4 beast with Rush, which is crap. But if you can corrupt the card, it gains +4/+4, and now you have a 5 mana 8/8, and it has Rush, right? Like, that's really good. But they can do this because you can't play a higher mana card before the curve turn, right? So with this corrupt mechanic, they've also solved the issue of making cards that are really big and cost very little mana, but without having the issue of your players playing them on curve and then creating a bad game state and that your opponent can't recover from. So
Right.
yeah,
And what you don't want to do is create something that can be cheated out in one go, right? So I'm sure there'll be ways in constructed because of all the craziness in constructed, especially in wild, to use the corrupt mechanic efficiently. But what you don't want to do is something that just costs a lot of mana, and then from turn 3 or turn 4, they can just cheat it out really, really quickly, right? This corrupt mechanic means if you're grabbing it out of your deck, it's not huge. If it is not in your hand at that point, it's not huge. And you have to play that thing, that bigger thing first, in order for this to be bigger. So it's just a safer method because Blizzard
Mm-hmm.
is aware that with everything in the game, if we are to make a 5 mana 8/8 rush, it has to be responsible. We have to at least put in all these safeguards. So these are the safeguards they put into place, and this is responsible card
Yeah.
design. Now, I'm not saying that you're like just not going to be pissed when they on turn 6 or something they pull this thing out. You know you're probably going to be angry still, but this is still more responsible.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're not going to pull it out on turn 6. They can pull it out on turn 7 because on turn 6 they have to play the 6 mana card.
Well, they can save the coin, right?
Okay, yeah.
Like,
Okay. They're
yeah,
really
they
going
can do stuff.
all in on this 8/8 rush.
Yeah, I mean, you're still well. That's the thing. It's still even kind of worth it. Yeah, unless you had a great use for the coin.
Right.
It's still pretty worth it for you because
Yeah.
on 6 mana, if you can get out an 8/8 rush, that's like the best 6 drop ever. So yeah, sure, that's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, you would also have to be carrying essentially a 5 drop and a 6 drop, right, in your hand the whole time while saving the coin. I feel like you're in a pretty bad position. But yeah, like it's interesting. It's very interesting things they can do with it, and I'm excited to see all the corrupt cards. Although we see quite a number of them already. But it's gonna be interesting and it's gonna be fun, and I like the mechanic. It's subtly creative. It's not like in your face creative, but it is adding an element into the game. Okay, now I'm gonna move on to the most ridiculous neutral card ever printed. This is the most ridiculous neutral card ever printed. I know we've objected to other neutral cards. I know you guys hate Twin Tyrant even more than we do. But no, this is the most ridiculous neutral card ever printed. And they've already revealed it, and they know it's ridiculous. It's just they have different principles now about what constitutes a neutral card. It is a epic card, fortunately, not a common, so you won't see it too often. But it is neutral, so you'll see it in every single class. It is a 10 mana 1/1 beast that is called Darkmoon Rabbit. It has Rush. So it's basically not a minion; it's effectively a spell. It has Poisonous, and then it also damages the minions next to whomever this attacks. So you now have a mini, lightly conditional, one-sided board clear. Like hard removal board clear. For 10 mana. But is breaking all sorts of rules about what neutral cards can do and can't do.
Yeah, neutral cards don't do this. Neutral cards are always the kind of backbone of your deck. They tend to do more of the grunt work. Class cards are the ones that do this kind of stuff. Now, is it amazingly good and that's why we're talking about it? No, it's not because it's game breaking. Like it's like, oh man, it's one of the best cards ever printed, right? We see some cards like Blessing of Authority, and it's like, okay, it's we're not talking about it because it's like Blessing of Authority. We're talking about it because neutral cards typically haven't done this, and for good reason. That's why we're talking about it.
And it's still good. This is not a Yeti. This is better than a Yeti.
Definitely.
But yeah, this is like, imagine playing against an opponent and your opponent does this. You're just like, well, I guess he did this. Like, what else are you gonna do? What else are you gonna say, right? Obviously, you will always play around this from now on, with your taunt positioning to the extent that you can. But you need 3 cards on your side of the board to even begin taunt positioning. And if they have any cards on their board, they can like get rid of your taunt or like do whatever stuff. And also it's just, oh my god, like twisting. Look at it this way: 8 mana is Twisting Nether for a double-sided board clear, and that's a good card. This is a single-sided board clear potentially. It's not a full board clear, by any stretch of the imagination, but it gets you most of the way there, and it's single-sided, right? Like, single-sided deal 2 damage is like 4 mana, right? And you get a little extra out of it. Double-sided deal 2 damage is 3 mana and you get a little out of it. So Like Murph said, is this the best card ever? No. Is this the best neutral card ever? No. But this is going to be one of the most impactful cards in a way that you do not like ever printed.
Yeah, it's going to be annoying. It's just going to be annoying. And you have to at least consider it going into turn 10 if you're in a decent position, or even if you're not in a decent position, you're just going to have to consider it a lot, which is annoying.
Yep. Yeah, so again, this isn't something that we're saying this is the most OP card ever printed, but it's certainly a good card, and it is just ridiculous swing for neutral, and just weird flavor, right? Like for neutral. Okay, I just want to talk about the bunny because I looked at that and I was like, oh my god, how do they do this? But yeah, that's a new expansion.
That's a new expansion. Every single expansion, they have to come out with something that does surprise you. That's just the name of the game. They can't.
Just don't do it in neutral. Neutrals should not have surprises. They should be neutral. I should feel neutral looking at neutrals.
Yeah, but if you never expect anything from neutrals, then you're never surprised by it. That is just true. You're asking to never be surprised by this thing, but then what is the most surprising thing? Then, like, you know, they got you. They got you, man. You were surprised, weren't you?
I was actually very surprised, even though they've been breaking down the walls of what it means to be neutral for a while now. I still looked at this and I was like, no, this is a joke. Where's the, like, you know, fan-made cards, like, section? And then it wasn't. It was a real thing.
Yep. Okay. Let's talk about BGs for a little bit, because BGs also got a brand spanking new patch. And I will say this. You guys know that I was not enjoying the BG meta. I was not playing it.
Merce was playing the arena over the BG.
Yeah, I was playing arena.
And dual class arena over the BG.
I thought it was that bad. Now, what do I think of it? Stay tuned. I'm going to tell you what changed 3 days ago first. Oh, man, I'm so good at this. The clickbait is real. Okay, so 3 days ago, we had patch 18.6. And what it did was, first of all, it introduced a new hero, Zephyrus the Great. His hero power it costs 4 gold. It's called 3 Wishes, and if you have 2 copies of a minion, find the third. And you have 3 wishes total, so you can use it 3 times. You can only use it once per turn, though. And it means that if you have a pair, it'll automatically triple that up. And, you know, like, instead of you rolling to hopefully find it, you just have to pay 1 extra. So you're basically just, like, guaranteeing, it's like, okay,
on my next roll, I will get it.
I have it. Yep. Mm-hmm. So yes, like, in a meta like this, you would have expected it to be really, really good. Surprisingly, it's not that good. From the top 1% on HS Replay, right now it is, let me see. It's about as good as Mr. Bigglesworth, which is the kitty. At the same time, it is a little bit worse than Chinvanla. And remember what I said before, I like Chinvanla. I played Chinvanla today, and I got number 1 with Chinvanla. She is just pretty good. It's like a Flurgle situation in which you just have to be prepared to take the 7th and 8th place sometimes.
Is Flurgle terrible now? Because his stats have, like, dropped to even below where he usually is.
No, Flurgle is good.
I mean, good. It's fine.
I mean, he's like, I would pick him over some of the like worse heroes, you know.
Well, yeah, but like, would you take Flurgle over, like, I don't know, Toki? About the same.
I would.
Okay.
But,
like, if you were hardcore trying to up your, like, ratings, would you say that?
Once again, I would, because I'm very comfortable with Flurgle. So
right, but that's what I mean. Like, for you, you would think that you would get more ratings with Flurgle than Toki.
I probably would. Okay. Yes. So yeah, with Zephyrus, I thought he was going to be more powerful than this, but the stats from 12K MMR players has not shown it to be the case. We'll see, because I played him once. I think I got a fourth place with him because I tripled into tier 5 twice and then tier 6 once. And my tier 5s, I ended up picking a Hogger and that 6/7 pirate guy because the other choices were I literally couldn't take them. So it was just really bad. It was just really bad as an unlucky, but the potential was there. I just didn't hit on my 5s or my 6. So unfortunate, unlucky.
This is what happens when you make wishes. You end up with pirates.
Yeah, isn't this the story of those like they always screw you over, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to be, even when you try to be really specific, they'll find a way to screw you over, and that's exactly what happened. Maybe there's like some hidden thing where you
Like the
never.
Alex Graza logic.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe there's some hidden thing in which all the good tier 5s and tier 6s have significantly lower rates. Oh my gosh, the Illuminati conspiracy theory. But anyways, Zephyrus is out right now for people who have early access. He is going to be formally released on November 5th. You're not really missing out on much.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a world beater. It's not like when they released Jandis and Omu, in which if you're missing them, that's a yikes. This is not a yikes. It's fine. He's probably done looting your pool anyways.
Yeah, he's definitely diluting your pool by those win
Yeah.
rates. Next change that happened is they fixed Genie. Yay! Genie can now only give you elementals that are your tavern tier or lower, as he probably always should have been. So yeah, he's still really good anecdotally from what people are saying.
He's still good.
So this is not like quote unquote solving the problem, but it is solving the ridiculous problem.
Yeah. Lastly, they made sure that players above 10K cannot group queue anymore. One of the best things to happen to competitive battlegrounds. Sorry, it's the best thing to happen to competitive battlegrounds since forever, because we have always had the ability to dual queue in BGs.
Yeah.
I never liked it, but I understood why they had it. And then, in my opinion, I always thought, okay, they're going to make private lobbies at some point, and once they do, we'll make sure that competitive stays competitive.
Yeah.
As in, we're gonna just make it solo queues and maybe some group queue separate MMR or something. I don't know. They didn't do that. I was not happy about it. Basically, every serious BG streamer / player was not happy about it. I honestly could not name one player who played it competitively who liked it. It was unanimous. It was absolutely unanimous. So they finally got rid of it. Very happy about it. They messed up the implementation of it below 10K for a little bit. I won't talk about that. I'm just really happy that Blizzard finally pulled the trigger on this, because I thought there was a high chance it was going to stay around forever based on what they were saying.
No, they said they were going to change it somehow, right? Like, but yes,
I
it might have
just
stayed
gonna be
around
slow.
forever.
Yeah.
But they could have done other changes. Like the two other changes they made with regard to group queue is, one, your group queue is always going to be your top rated player. That's how they're going to track you, match make you. So okay, fine. I don't really know what that like fully accomplishes, but I guess it prevents smurfing or something. The other one that they made, I love this change, is that everybody gains and loses equal amount of MMR now in your group. You're only competing against people not in your group. So now you have no way to boost someone, right? You still get the advantage of being in a group queue, like the quite significant advantage of being in a group queue and being able to like level at the same time and scout for everybody. But at the very least, you can't then individually boost one person amongst the four of you, right? So that also mitigates the potential boosting powers quite a bit, and it prevents what the reports that I've heard of that I haven't seen, but apparently people were like playing 4 games at once, right, just to boost their own one single character, and that obviously you can't do anymore because now you're going to lose because your other 3 are basically AFK and they're going to play 6, 7, and 8.
Yep, exactly. So that just makes a lot of sense. I'm really, really glad that they did this. And they didn't mess around for too long, as in kind of trying like, oh, we'll just decrease your MMR gain by 20% if you're in a group. Now, 2 months later, and let's adjust that to 28% or
Hmm.
something. They didn't mess around. They just did this. I'm so happy that they did. And judging by the comments that I've heard from other people, everyone is just really happy about that. It's one of the big
Well,
reasons that I came back to BGs.
everyone who's a serious player is.
Yep,
I've seen quite a number of complaints actually from people
sure.
who are like, "Oh, now I can. What am I going to do? I'm over 10k. I guess I have to like purposefully derank so that I can keep playing with my friends." And it's like, well, yeah, because
Yep.
Blizzard didn't take the extra step and make separate queues. So, is this like the optimal solution? I don't think so, but as far as preserving integrity at the top, this gets the job done as well as any solution.
Right.
So it sucks if you now can't play with your friends and want to, and we're never like trying to like make it to the leaderboard by abusing this strategy, right, or whatever. But you are now the out group, which sucks for these people, but it at least makes more sense that these are the players that are the out group right now rather than the streamers and the top players. Like, if your top players of your games are the out group, that's weird. Like, that's not healthy. So, hopefully, no one is the out group by the time they finish tweaking with all this, but right now they've shifted the out group from your top players and your key streamers onto the people who are above 10k and want to play with their friends who are below 10k and don't have, another account.
This is just me guessing, like tinfoil hat conspiracy theory time. I think that this decision, it did seem to, it took me by surprise because a couple of the members from Blizzard who were the most vocal about this seemed to really like the idea of keeping it and at most tweak it.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly they got rid of it. Like this
Mm-hmm.
is a clean, just complete demolishing of group like
Yeah.
essentially what it just did is like fine we can fill your game with randoms pulled from the ladder, right? Like it's a private room that you're just bringing other people into, and the MMR, like they penalize you a lot, right? Like they're making sure there is no exploitation of it,
Right.
and at the very top you honestly just can't do it. I think like there was this had to, in my opinion, this was just a decision from other people that we haven't heard about being like, hey, by the way, we also had this huge tournament in Europe with Battlegrounds based on these people who played in, and we want to do more of this stuff. Let's face it, Battlegrounds is huge. It is way bigger than Constructed, at least on Twitch right now. At least on Twitch, Battlegrounds is dominating. Constructed is still there, but when you look at Hearthstone, it's all Battlegrounds at the top.
Well, because the
We
constructed people in the league aren't allowed to stream, and then the constructed tournaments and stuff that's happening are all on YouTube.
It's all on YouTube, but at the same time,
So,
like they can all like well, people still do stream on
but not during those
people
times, right? Or has that been lifted? Because I remember they couldn't like stream at the same time as when they
they
were having
they
the
they
league.
can't stream at the same time that those tournaments are going
Yeah, but those
on.
tournaments are going on like half the day, right?
No, they're not going on now anymore. Like if you look
The
at it now,
season's over.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So if you look at it even during the off season, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it even during the off season, no, that's just not where viewership is. So I think the decision was just made from one of these voices we haven't heard, and from Blizzard wanting to do more of these tournaments. And if you want to do these tournaments and you look at this and if you just dig into a little bit, you're like, this isn't good.
Yeah.
Like this isn't, you can't have that
You
leak.
can't
You can't have
pay
that.
people to exploit your game.
Yes.
Like, which is what the combination of having rewards like that are literally monetary and then also
Because
allowing an exploitation.
the messages we were hearing from Blizzard and the at least the most vocal people who talk with the community about group queues, they in much more words, but they're like some of it boiled down to you won't notice and you shouldn't care.
Mm-hmm.
And but when there's money on the line and when there's invitations and when there's exposure time on Twitch, then you should care, right?
Mm-hmm.
What they're saying is we are paying you to care,
Mm-hmm.
but you shouldn't notice and you shouldn't care. So
I
like,
mean, their
yeah,
position never made any sense. We called them out right off the bat. Everybody called them out right off the bat. And then, a few of us put words into action, right? Actions speak louder than words. And we showed the world what to do. And then the top streamer stopped doing it, but it was already out there, right? Cat's out of the bag, and other people were doing it who were not streamers. And that made the streamers even more upset because it's an exploit that literally they were not allowed to use because they would lose viewers, whereas random other people could. And it was such a big exploit that made such a big difference. And I mean, it never made any sense, and it was always going to be toxic and destructive. They had a few ways to go about removing it. I think a part of the reason why they're doing it this way now is because of costs. Also, like to create a separate queue, that's a lot of work.
it is a lot of work.
Yeah, it's
just more stuff you have to think about.
Yeah, and this was clean, and they just realized that it's better to have certain players be the out group than certain other players if you need to have an out group.
Yeah.
So
in no way should your top, most vocal, most skilled, most viewed players be the outcast.
Be 100% aligned in an out group. Like, even if it's not popular with those players, you got to get at least some support from those players, right? All right. Well, it's Battlegrounds. So the other thing with Battlegrounds is what the meta is right now. I read Bob's Tavern, and I don't play Battlegrounds.
Yep. So what are you reading
from Bob's Tavern? So from Bob's Tavern, it seems like this is the most terrible meta ever. Nothing they've done actually fixed the problem. It's elementals, and you should really force elementals. And they really need to shake up the meta and like fix all the demons and mechs and whatever other things that are heavily underperforming compared to elementals, and maybe Astros Dragons if you get really, really, really lucky. So that's what I hear from Bob's Tavern. Yes. But I played with you on Friday. You had a different take.
Yeah, so that's what the people on Reddit are saying. There's many posts about it. There was even a big post that got a lot of traction like 3 hours ago or something, decrying exactly how bad the meta is and how it's just elementals. There's no skill involved. To those people, I say, get good. I have no idea what game you're playing because you are... I can't really sugarcoat this. You are not in an MMR that I am familiar with. You are just not, because that is not how the game is like at the highest lobbies right now. It isn't when you watch the streams. It's not when I've been playing. And so in the past like couple of days, I've been playing a little bit more BGs. I think like a little bit above 11K. I started off at like 10.5 because I just tanked my MMR a little bit, dicking around. And the meta is great. It's fine. It's skill testing enough. Are elementals powerful? Yes. Are they dominating the meta? No. Is everyone still rushing to tier 5 and tier 6? Yes. Is it as punishing as before when they didn't fix the genies and high rolly and with all that 30 damage on turn 8? No. We've stopped doing that. Menagerie works. Beasts are weak, but sometimes it works. I got second with big demons. This stuff was impossible before the genie fix. And now the meta is in a fine spot where you can stabilize. Stats matter. There's still going to be people who high roll, but it's Battlegrounds. It's meant to be, kind of quick, fast paced. You might get screwed one game. Great. On to the next one kind of thing. I think the meta is in the best spot it's been for a long, long time. And there are issues with heroes. I would love to get rid of Maev. I would love to get rid of Omu. I think those are very problematic heroes. But you play with the hand that you're dealt. And I think that if you have been away from BGs for a while and you're kind of reluctant to get back in because elemental this, elemental that, everything is broken, there's no skill, I could not disagree with that more. I think it's a great time to come back and really relearn or just learn the basics of BGs and have a lot of fun. I was not having fun before. I'm coming back right now and I'm having a lot of fun. So the game is not perfect. There are still things that they can fix, but with just these simple tweaks, I am really enjoying BGs. And I think those of you who have enjoyed BGs at any point in the past will enjoy BGs again if you come back.
Okay. It's a pretty strong statement. For when we were playing on Friday, though, Merps did play a lot of elementals. Just so while it may be totally the right choice to not go elementals if you're like, on the track to doing something, but elementals are still definitely, it seems like, the favored one, right? And there's a difference between a perfectly balanced and diverse meta and one that's like functional. And I think what Merps means is that we're back to functional and
very functional.
And let's be honest. Most of the time, Battlegrounds does not have a functional meta, which is sad, but I guess we're in beta. So hopefully things will improve whenever they decide this is out of beta. But honestly, most of the time, Battlegrounds is not in a functional meta. So the fact that it's back to functional, even though there is a clear like best tribe that, if you had the choice of, right, or like it's just easier to on-ramp into them, it doesn't mean that the other ones are totally worthless. And it also doesn't mean that Blizzard shouldn't buff the other tribes. They should, and it'll probably come, and or elementals will be nerfed a bit more, but it's more than like just quote unquote playable, right? Like it's a decent meta.
It's a good meta. You haven't played BGs in a while. It's different than the BGs that you left.
Like I left when it was Eudora, and that was good. That was a good meta. All the tribes were viable because Eudora did not care about...
Because Eudora just beat them? There were no tribes. It was just Eudora.
Well, no, anyone else could as well, because Eudora also like forces you down random paths, right? Like Eudora is whatever Eudora does. So everyone was playing all this wide variety of tribes to go down. Elementals were not in the game yet. Everyone was all like, Murlocs. Well, Murlocs were rarely the right choice to make if you want to increase your MMR. So that was also fine. It felt like different than right now. Like right now, I think elementals are the right choice if you can get to it. Right? Would you agree with that statement? Like, don't force elementals, but
they are quite good.
Yeah,
they are good.
So back then, it wasn't like Murlocs are good if you can get into it. It's like, no, you should only go Murlocs if you're kind of forced into it. But 3 people in your lobby will try for Murlocs because they're the only way you can win the final lobby. And people cared about that more than their MMR on average, or they just didn't know that that's how MMR worked. So that's when I left, and I thought that was a good meta. I don't know how good this is compared to that, but I will come back to BGs some point. If you guys are wondering when I'm coming back to streaming solo streams, my first solo stream is going to be one of these 2 days. It's either going to be November 6th or November 13th. Both of them are Fridays. I'm going to try to make it November 6th, but if a lot of stuff is happening and I can't do it, I'll push it back to November 13th. And remember, November 17th is when November 17th is when the expansion comes out. So when the expansion comes out, we'll also be doing like just kind of, or I'll be doing a whole bunch of streams to play in the new expansion. That's when I'll be back for solo streams. I've been doing co-op streams this entire time. All right. And anything else about Battlegrounds before we move on to the also exists in Hearthstone portion of our discussion?
Nope, that's basically it. So once again, guys, I legitimately do not know why people are complaining this much, or if they've even played the new BGs, because them nerfing Genie has actually had that dramatic of an effect on the high MMR lobbies. So, and you can also say, well, Merps, the highest people are like 14, 15K. That's fine. I get into lobbies with all of them. It's whatever. My experience is like the same as theirs in terms of the actual lobbies that we are all in going in. So I see what they are seeing. I don't play enough, so oh my god, the climb to 15K, I can't even imagine. But
You know what my rating is?
I have no idea. What is your rating? Oh, 0?
Yeah,
Actually 0.
literal
Nice.
0.
So yeah, that's the thing with BGs. Once the game just gets more polarized, you're gonna just have vastly different experiences at lower MMRs versus higher MMRs. And we're at the point now where because it's being upvoted so much on Reddit, I'm like, I guess it has to be true to some extent. But I think if you ask any players who are playing in high MMR lobbies, they'll just be like, no. Because there will always be a best tribe, right? Whether it's dragons, whether it's murlocs, whether it's elementals, there's always going to be a best tribe. It's like, is it acceptable?
I don't know. I don't know. Like in the Eudora Murloc meta, I don't know that there was a best tribe because it wasn't Murlocs. It may be dragons, but it was really hard to do dragons. It wasn't really beasts. Definitely wasn't like mechs or demons. I don't think there was one. That's what I liked about that meta. Like all the minions, all the tribes were kind of equal, except pirates were kind of crappy. Like
I don't remember it, but the fact that you're calling it the Eudora Murloc meta.
Yeah, but that's because people use Murlocs, right? That's because people used it, not because it was actually the best. It was the easiest way to get number 1, but it was definitely not the best for getting highest average MMR gain. Like you can maybe transition to Murlocs and whatever, but I don't think there has to be a best. I think that's like kind of giving Blizzard too easy of a job. You only have, 7 tribes now? I don't even know how many tribes there are. Let's say 7. You only have 7 tribes, 6 tribes, I don't know, plus a menagerie, so like 8 things. You can balance it. This is not an impossible task. This is not like Duels. Blizzard will never balance Duels. But Blizzard can balance Battlegrounds pretty easily. Easier than Arena, actually.
All right. So, that's BGs for you guys. Definitely try that out if you have been kind of turned off by the previous meta. Come back. You enjoy it. It's fun.
All right. Finally, last and least, because Blizzard cares about it the least, it is Arena. And things have happened to Arena. We know that dual class arenas are gone, regular arenas are back, regular arenas are going to stay here, and there's going to be a rotation with the next expansion. So I know people think Arena doesn't get a lot of love, but one thing Arena does get that the other game modes do not get is an automatic injection of all the cards for every new expansion it constructed. So that's always like quite a significant update. So we're getting that again, and we talked about the cards in the new expansion earlier, and now I'm going to talk about the rotation. They are going to remove all of the Year of the Dragon sets from the arena, besides Galakrond's Awakening. That's 3 whole sets. Shadows, Saviors, and Dragons, right? That's 3 whole sets. And they're going to add in the newest expansion, the moon whatever, Moon Faire. I'm just gonna call him Moon Faire. It's Moon something Fair, but I'm gonna call him
Darkmoon Faire.
Darkmoon Faire. Why is the moon dark? Okay, Darkmoon Faire, and also coming back is Old Gods, because Darkmoon Faire kind of has Old Gods, and I know we didn't talk about it, but all the Old Gods are making an appearance as legendaries again for Darkmoon Faire. So Old Gods is also coming back. What that means is that there's actually going to be 1 less set in the arena than there was before. And if you guys remember how much I like the fact that we went back to standards, because we got that additional set in the last in Skullomance Academy, and how much that made the diversity of decks in arena go up, and just how good it was. I'm very disappointed that they decided to take away a set. Like, I like the fact that there's a rotation, if only because we've been in standard for like the entire year so far. And normally I'm against wild rotations because they're not balancing them, and they don't really balance too well. But having one old set and all the other new sets is probably fine. But they're removing a lot of the diversity in the arena. You're going to see a lot more duplicates. You're going to see more predictable deck building than before. And I don't know. People are excited about the wild aspect. I'm a little excited about it too. But I think overall, it's going to be a net negative for your arena experience, just because they removed an extra set. They could easily just add it back, or add another old set in. I don't care. There just needs to be a larger kind of pool. Also, Old Gods itself, that set is a smaller set than usual because it has a lot of Old Gods cards, like Cthulhu cards, that are all removed from the pool, and a lot of those are neutral. So it's when the rotation comes, if you start seeing a lot of samey kind of decks, you'll know why. Okay, so that's gonna happen, and in addition to that, they nerf some legendary cards, 2 legendary cards. Evocation, instead of 1 mana, is 2 mana now. Great. It was too powerful at 1 mana. It's still too powerful at 2 mana, but at least it's a little less ridiculous. And then they nerf one of the prime cards. I don't even remember which one, but it's another legendary. Solarian?
Astromancer Solarian.
Oh, Astromancer Solarian, which was 7 mana and is now 9 mana.
Yep.
Yeah, just it doesn't matter. Not a huge deal in Arena. So Arena's getting some attention, right? And as you guys know, the latest macro adjust round that happened before dual classes has made it so the Arena meta is pretty balanced. We're in a above average Arena meta right now. We're back to where we were before the dual class arenas, so that's all good. And hopefully they hit the button frequently and early when the new expansion comes out, because there's a lot of things happening on November 17th. A lot of things. And I can see Arena being lost in the shuffle and not getting touched for a while. But I really hope they just keep hitting the button, because that's all you need to do when you launch a new expansion, right? There's you already have a whole bunch of new cards. No one's asking you to do much else. Just hit the button for Arena. That's all. Okay. That's it for Arena. Anything else? There's a whole new system of how to get cards and battle passes and subscribing for stuff and achievements. All that stuff is going to kick in the week before the expansion comes out. So also, if you I know there's plenty of people actually who listen to this podcast that don't play Hearthstone in any way, shape, or form for years. Yeah, maybe come back and check it out after that, because you'll have a lot of step-by-step achievements to do, and maybe you'll get back into actually playing the game, or maybe not, but Blizzard's giving it a shot. It's a whole rework, and I did not have enough time to sit down and figure it all out, but it's a battle pass-like system of getting access to the new expansion cards.
There's a actual progression system where you can feel as though during a season and during your, I don't know, just playing the game in whatever mode you like, you're going to be earning rewards. You're going to be earning kind of hero portraits and everything. It's just stuff that games made in 2020 naturally have. They always have this. They know that players kind of like it. It's like a level up system that you just are able to do by playing whatever mode that you like. Hearthstone's quest system is extraordinarily antiquated. It is kind of frustrating. It just feels like a chore. It forces you to do specific tasks that don't really appeal to you 99% of the time. So this new battle pass system, this new progression system, I think is going to be pretty fun for the vast majority of people.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. We covered a whole crap ton of news today. Hope you guys got all that, and we will dig more into it in the coming weeks. I think never say never, but as of now, I don't think that this podcast is going to extend too deeply to duels. just because I don't know. I'm questioning. I don't even know if I classify it as a limited game mode. It's kind of a hybrid, right? It's more of a hybrid between constructed and brawl than even constructed and arena. So we may talk a little about duels if like major stuff is developing in it. But we're gonna try to keep this focused on arena and battlegrounds. Um, Anything else to update? Oh, life update. Question from the goat. I got married, so it's official now. Happened on Monday. I tweeted it out if you want a picture, but it doesn't really show anything. It's literally just the picture of the two of us dressed up. We got a courthouse wedding in the middle of COVID. Had to hunt down some witnesses like on the spot because we don't know anyone here in Charlotte. So we hunted down two nice people who happened to be in the court building and could spare a half hour to get married, to witness us get married. And yeah, I am now officially someone's husband, and I officially have a wife. And it feels weird to say, but everything else is the same. DKSH says in chat says, "Did you tell your mom?" Oh yeah. Also, I told my parents afterwards, not beforehand, because it was really kind of a last minute thing. A spot opened up, and we already had a certificate, and we were like, "All right, let's just do this." And my mom was generally nice about it, but my dad's first thing was, "Oh my God, you gained weight again." So you know, I think my mom. Oh, and then my mom left a voicemail where she talked about me gaining weight, but in her initial comments, there was nothing about weight gain. And I had lost 5 pounds since COVID started. So
Not enough.
apparently not. Anyway, that's a life update. If you are interested in the Arena Coop is back because there's the no more dual class arenas. So we're going to head over and do the Arena Coop right now if you're watching us live. Yeah, anything else you want to add?
That's it.
All right. Until next week, this is Adwikta.
This is Merp. See you guys.